All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for our next installment in the Departmental Deep Dive series. Tonight, we will be highlighting our new accelerated 3+4 pharmacy doctorate programs, specifically the Temple University and Fairleigh Dickinson University programs. I am joined by some of the best and brightest from our faculty ranks to discuss the program tonight. This is something that we're really excited about. I know these are relatively new agreements, so we wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to spread the news far and wide. I'm your host. My name is Tom, and I work in the Office of Undergrad Admissions. Did everyone want to do just a brief introduction? Dean Latha.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Latha Ramakrishnan, Dean of the College of Science and Technology at Bloomsburg University. And
Dean Latha, you are a chemist by trade, yes? So this is kind of in your wheelhouse.
Absolutely, yes, Tom. I did my PhD in chemistry, but of course I've done my research and teaching and biochemistry and neuropharmacology. So basically I've touched multiple subdisciplines.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Borland.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Michael Borland, Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry, and I'm a full professor in biochemistry and toxicology and things of that realm.
And Dr. Borland has done many a Facebook Live event for us in admissions, and we are always appreciative of the efforts, and I see the degrees in the background, so you know he's legit. Great. Thank you, Dr. Borland. Dr. Zimmerman.
My name is Dr. Greg Zimmerman, and I am the department chair of the Chemistry and Biochemistry Department at Bloomsburg University. And I have all sorts of fun being the department chair.
Yes, and I like the lab coat. Someone who does not work in the health sciences, I feel comforted when I see the lab coat. That adds credibility to this, right? So that's great. Thank you, Dr. Zimmerman. Dr. Bell.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tony Bell, and I'm also a professor in chemistry and biochemistry. My PhD's in chemistry. I do largely biochemistry, but I've also done some organic chemistry, which usually gives me some cringes from people who are in their pharmacy programs. Yeah, I'm glad to be here and participate in this and help students learn more about our programs with in the PharmD.
Well, I know one of the things that came out from Dr. Borland with one of our previous sessions is that, in fact, chemistry is cool. So all of those things, that's cool. Dr. Hess.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Hess. I'm chair of the Biological and Allied Health Sciences Department at Bloomsburg University. My degree is in anatomy and cell biology. So I'm a cell biologist and a cancer biologist, and I teach a lot of physiology.
And Dr. Hess joins us from the academic quad right outside of the fountain.
Yes, it is beautiful out here right now.
Yes, it looks lovely. And then last but certainly not least, Dr. Jeremy Jacobs, our resident pharmacist here on the panel today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeremy Jacobs. I practice as a clinical pharmacist at Geisinger Medical Center in Danville, Pennsylvania, and I'm also a proud Temple Owl and alumnus of the Temple University School of Pharmacy.
Yes, and that's excellent. That's one of the programs that we will be highlighting tonight. So without further ado here, and actually before we go into the presentation, just to give everyone a quick rundown of what to expect tonight, the event should take probably around 30 or 35 minutes. We are recording this and we will be posting this to our Facebook, YouTube, and Vimeo channels. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them onto the post on Facebook. I will relay them to the group. We have a brief presentation, and then we're going to jump right into a panel discussion with our faculty members here. So let me go ahead and bring up the slide here. Bear with me just 1 second. And let me share my screen. Right. So, and again, like I mentioned earlier, we're highlighting our two new programs with Temple University and Fairleigh Dickinson University. Dean Latha, or I apologize here. Mike, would you be able to give us some information here on these programs?
Yes, so I'll jump in with the first big sell. So Bloomsburg University now has agreements with the Temple School of Pharmacy, and then we'll talk about Fairleigh Dickinson in just a second. With Bloomsburg being on the East Coast or eastern side of Pennsylvania, also on the East Coast, having these agreements with now a major pharmacy school in Philadelphia and also one of the major pharmacy schools in New Jersey gives a great opportunity for our students, mostly from Central Pennsylvania, Eastern Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, a great opportunity to transition from an education at BU to one of these two schools to get your doctorate in pharmacy. With Temple in specific, we have 6 qualified seats per student for their program. They are also excited to bring more students than that. So if you come into our program, you meet qualifications, you complete the coursework, the GPA requirements, and follow through with Temple's interview process, you can be one of the 6 that automatically transition after 3 years at BU to Temple University. And I guess we can flip over to Fairleigh Dickinson then. That agreement is very similar. It's with the Fairleigh Dickinson School of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, so a little different name. This is for up to 5 students per year. But again, we've got these universities really want to recruit more students from BU. And so there's always the opportunity to go above 5. And again, if you meet all of the qualifications, GPA requirements, interview process, again, qualified BU students can head right in, and their 4th year of undergraduate degree is their 1st year of their PharmD program.
So essentially, you're concurrently completing your undergrad degree while getting a jump start on your doctorate in pharmacy. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yep. So a student would save tuition money, and also then kind of you're double dipping in terms of time. So yes.
Right. Time equals money.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
All right. So you can see here, this is me with one of my research students who's now graduated and gone on her way. But I wanted to give you a few program details. So you have 2 choices of undergraduate degrees at Bloomsburg University. You can choose to either major in chemistry, or you can choose to major in health sciences. And so we have arrangements with either of those programs. So it would be a BA chemistry or a BS in health sciences. And then after your junior year, you will have completed your coursework in either of those programs here at Bloomsburg University. And then you would move into your PharmD program at Temple or Fairleigh Dickinson. And that first year at either of those pharmacy programs counts as your senior year at Bloomsburg University. And we do what's called a reverse transfer. We bring those credits in, and that completes your degree while you're away, and you're already started your first year in your professional program. So candidates with admission to Temple must have a GPA of 2.7 or higher at BU. That's in whichever program they choose, and complete all the prerequisite courses which are built into those programs. We've carefully plotted out the curriculum. Students can make it in time and get all the courses they need to be successful in their PharmD program. And then, of course, successfully complete an admission interview, because working with people is really, really important as a pharmacist. And then from Fairleigh Dickinson University, it's a 3.3 or higher overall GPA at BU, and all the prerequisite courses in an admissions interview. And so both programs are the same at undergraduate level within either chemistry or the health sciences. And so then you would choose which PharmD program you would want to enter at some point along the time before you get to your senior year.
And for those of you who are in high school right now and you're wondering about the calculation between a 2.7 GPA or a 3.3 GPA in like a percentage, for example, I know a lot of high schools do GPAs on percentages. So just to give you a frame of reference, a 2.7 GPA is a B minus GPA, and a 3.3 GPA is a B plus GPA. So essentially, it's not like it's a 3.99 or a 99.9%. These are GPAs that are certainly not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but they are realistic and they are attainable.
That's a good point. They are doable.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. The next couple of slides actually talks about why we are excited about these partnerships with 2 premier pharmacy schools, as Dr. Boland was mentioning, in Philadelphia as well as in New Jersey. And also the quotes from our president, Dr. Hannah, and our provost, Dr. Diana Rogers Atkinson, talks about our sense of purpose. So as a state institution and a member of the PASHE, Pennsylvania State System of Higher Education, We are committed to access and student success. Primarily, our goal here is to provide access to quality programs, not only at our university, but as students are wrapping up their undergraduate education here, providing them a pathway to a graduate degree program. In this case, it's a professional graduate program, the PharmD program, at 2 premier schools of pharmacy in the East Coast here. And in terms of student success, again, we are committed to the success of our students, but that commitment to student success does not stop at, when our students are wrapping up their undergraduate education here. We are committed to the success of our students and success of all of our students, even after they graduate and as they go on to the next step, whether it is, professional programs like the PharmD programs here, or any other path that they choose to go into. And also, we are so proud to be providing these opportunity to all of our students. As Dr. Hannah states here, a third of our students are first-generation college students, and therefore we are so excited that we are able to bring this opportunity, to all of our students here. Tom, if you can proceed to the next slide. In the next slide, we have a quote from our provost about our, basically relaying our excitement in terms of collaborating with Fairleigh Dickinson University and in terms of bringing these opportunities for our students. One other point that I want to mention here is, Bloomsburg is working with our 2 other sister institutions in terms of integrating into one institution. And as this new university, integrated university, comes into existence in July of 2022, these partnerships are going to be available to students in central Pennsylvania. And so it is not just going to be students that are coming into Bloomsburg University. We will also be expanding these opportunities to students who are going to be at Lock Haven and Mansfield campuses as well. And this was certainly a point that Temple University School of Pharmacy Dean and their provost, as well as leadership at Fairleigh Dickinson University, were very excited that they now have an opportunity to provide access to their premier programs to students in central Pennsylvania.
I think one of the program benefits is highlighted there in the bold, that you save a full year of time and costs. And so it is quite expensive to go to a university. And I think by saving a year, that is one of the biggest benefits. I think the other benefits are also listed with bullet points there. We already have the curriculum in place. It's already been approved. We've been running the courses that are in the curriculum, which Angela will look at a little bit in a slide or 2. And it's already pretty much all in place. And I think that in the end, it's going to save the students time. And that's a huge thing because time is money.
And the other thing that I think bears mentioning too is that there's a pathway, right? We have this carefully mapped out journey for students who want to become a pharmacist. We have this program that's already mapped out for you, and it eliminates some of the gray area that might exist, because without programs like this, essentially what students have to do is complete their degree and then basically restart an application process into a doctoral program of pharmacy. And there's no guarantee that you're going to get admitted. I mean, it's very competitive to get in to a doctorate of pharmacy program. Whereas, again, these 2 programs, just by raising your hand, saying I'm interested in maintaining the required GPA and completing the admissions interview, these programs are already prefabbed out for you. So I think it does eliminate some of the questions that might come down the road and some of the other obstacles that may lay in the path of students not going into one of these accelerated programs.
I think something that we don't have written here is that at Bloomsburg University, we, the faculty, we serve as your advisors, and we're fairly small programs in a medium-sized university. And so you get those benefits of getting to know your faculty, and you talk to your chemistry professors and you talk to your biology professors, and that's not something you get everywhere. And so we're there with you through the process to help help you on that pathway to getting to your PharmD program. So I
Right,
think
and
that's something special we have. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, that's another piece of this that kind of gets left, that sometimes isn't as quite as flashy, but the advising is so important because, I mean, it's an arduous process to make it through this, right? Now, obviously, it's a lot easier with the accelerated programs and these articulation agreements, but the advising that you get from faculty really helps guide you throughout the course. Unless you're a parent or you have a close friend who is a pharmacist, I mean, you're kind of on your own unless you have outstanding faculty guidance, and that's certainly something that you're going to find at Bloomsburg, without a doubt.
Okay, so as was mentioned before, there are actually two different degree areas that you could start. You could start in health sciences or you can start in chemistry. And actually, we already had pre-pharmacy preparation areas under these degree programs already, except they were just the traditional, 4 years at BU and then 4 years at a pharmacy program. So what we did is we took those courses and we laid them out and sort of compressed things a little bit, but not extensively so. So that way you could meet the requirements for entry into these PharmD programs. And there's really not a whole lot of difference between Temple's course track and Fairleigh and Dickinson's course track. They're pretty similar with each other. So we like Dr. Bell said, we have it all mapped out for you. So semester by semester, what courses you would need to take. So you would finish all of the prerequisite courses for the PharmD program, as well as your general education requirements at Bloomsburg University within 6 semesters. And then for your last 2, what we consider your senior year of Bloomsburg, you would head off to your PharmD program. And then once you complete the PharmD program, we transfer back those credits to Bloomsburg University. That then satisfies the credit count you need for BU, and you have 2 degrees at one time. So it really does save a lot of work, a lot of time. So generally, our freshmen are taking somewhere between 14 and 15 credits per semester each year, so 30 credits a year. And really with the accelerated program, you're taking about 17 to 18. So an extra class or so each semester in order to finish all of your requirements that you need at BU in those 6 semesters before heading off to your accelerated program. So it's a little bit more, but not extensively. So it's not like you're going to be taking 21 credits or anything like that in a semester to get these requirements done. So you can see here some of the things that are required. So these are the courses that you would take as part of our programs at Bloomsburg.
And Dr. Hess, I know you can probably major in multiple degrees here, but what are the 2 primary majors then that students could enter into this program with for their degree at Bloomsburg?
So they could go to BS Health Sciences, which is offered from the Department of Biological and Allied Health Sciences, or they can do the BA Chemistry degree, which is offered through the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just after you. And then what makes a good student? And honestly, this is probably one of the most important slides here because there are probably a lot of students that are wondering, well, how do I know if this is a good fit for me? How do I know that this is the route I want to go versus going into pre-med or going into nursing or medical imaging or pre-PT or pre-PA? There's a lot of options, and like the Venn diagram of all these different majors is going to be extensive. So being able to figure out, all right, this is the path I want to go down pharmacy. This is going to be a key decision that you're going to make at the beginning or the onset of this decision-making process. All right. Dr. Bell, did you want to offer any additional information then about what makes a good student and how students might be able to identify themselves as a good fit for a program like this?
Sure. Typically students who come in who are interested in maybe going into pharmacy are interested in math and chemistry and the health sciences, and you got to really, really like science and especially biology. Whenever somebody says they want to be going to, one of the medical professions and they say, I'm not into biology, I kind of cringe. Because I'm way into biology. I really love it. And be interested, of course, in working with people, because that's an important part of being a pharmacist. And it does take some time to complete that education that you need. And I'm sure Dr. Jacobs will help us better understand about why he chose to become a pharmacist and give us some more insights that I don't have as a non-pharmacist.
I
Right.
was
Yes.
think-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was thinking a quality that's maybe not up here is, I think you have to be sort of mentally tough in a lot of ways. And sometimes that's actually a thing that can grow as a student comes to Bloomsburg University. I have seen students who maybe weren't tremendously confident, and they take that first exam and they do well. And it's like they gain this confidence that, hey, I can do this. But on top of that, sometimes, well, generally, students will meet that one thing that, oh man, they just get knocked down and get a low test score or something like that. And so the ability to get up off the mat and bounce back up and brush themselves off and then get back in there, try and do some sort of assessment to determine, okay, you know, what do I have to do to change? That's a really important quality. And I just thought I'd put that in there.
Yeah, the resiliency is important because the reality is this coursework is going to be difficult for everybody, right? So the kid who was an A+ student or the kid who was a B+, like this is going to be tough for everybody. And there's a lot of students who go into the health sciences who probably are not used to having those kinds of experiences coming from high school. So yeah, having those moments and recognizing, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to do things differently, but not throwing in the towel, not seeing that as a sign of maybe this isn't the right fit for me. Kind of working your way through that it's really important. It's a soft skill, and I don't like that term soft skill, but it's a skill that you kind of have to learn. It's not something you're going to learn in a textbook. You're just going to have to work your way through it. But that's also where the advising comes into play too, from faculty. They can say, no, look, hey, a lot of people struggle with the subject. This is what you did wrong this time. This is how we can prepare differently the next time. But if you're going to go to an enormous school, you're not going to get that kind of advising at a place like that. So that definitely comes into play with that question.
Well, and one of the things to think about Bloomsburg University is the students are admitted, and you all have natural intellect, but you are going to acquire intellect in coming to college and taking these types of courses. And maybe you don't identify to this program right off the bat in your freshman year. You could still loop into this by taking maybe a summer course or a winter course. You are not locked into this on day one, because if you start as a freshman and then suddenly you decide you don't want to do this anymore, we can very easily slide you into a degree in the biology tracks, in the chemistry department. We will find you a fit. But if you identify this early, we can help. Well, again, someone here will help guide you in that pathway, and we'll get you that acquired intellect to go wherever you need to go. Maybe it's the PharmD, maybe it's not. We hope it's PharmD, but there's lots of other options here at BU.
Optionality. You will have optionality, no question.
So,
And then
Tom, if I can jump in, when I meet with community members, a question that I'm asked often as dean is, what are you most proud about, your faculty and students? Of course, when it is about our faculty, it's their dedication, and it's showing up today, right? I mean, in every one of our faculty comments, it shows their dedication to our students. And about our students, it is their grit, right? Their persistency, their resilience. And so I would say any student that's coming into BU and has, as Dr. Boland was saying, has an interest in this path, they can make this happen. And so to your question of what makes a good student, I think our students are good students, and they have the grit and commitment and persistency to make this happen if this is what they want to do.
Yes, I think that's very well said. I completely agree. And then the job outlook, and I know this is, obviously going to college, regardless of what your degree is going to be in, it's an investment, right? This is an investment that should pay dividends, and going into a program like this would be no different. Dr. Jacobs, as our resident pharmacist on our panel, could you speak a little bit about the job outlook for a pharmacist, and what are some of the things you're seeing in your day-to-day career?
Yeah, so I'll just point out one thing that's maybe a little bit interesting as it relates to Bloomsburg University. But if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you'll actually see that the highest concentration of pharmacists per capita in the United States is in the Bloomsburg, Berwick, Danville metro area. So interestingly, there's a lot of opportunities here in this area, a lot of it through the Geisinger health system, some beyond that as well, but that's, sort of the big driver. in this area.
So Dr. Jacobs, I'm somewhat gullible. I can't tell if you were being serious or not, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's like a true if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that's actually a true thing. The top per capita concentration of pharmacists is the Bloomsburg, Berwick, Danville metro area.
Wow,
So,
I didn't know that. Yeah,
yeah. So
putting us on the map.
but it makes sense.
Yeah. So again, that's per capita, not total pharmacists, but
right.
But yeah, so even, I've been practicing for about 15 and a half years frontline, even, working in the Geisinger system, just where we've seen a huge expansion. We've seen an expansion of our services in the hospital. I myself, earlier in my career, launched a program, clinical pharmacy program in the emergency department at Geisinger Medical Center. So even within the hospital, we've, expanded over the years, but system-wide, there's been a huge expansion in the community level, what they call medication therapy management. Pharmacists embedded in primary care clinics, managing chronic disease states, with different specialties, pain management, neurology, multiple sclerosis, things like that. So, when you think of pharmacists, if you're not familiar with the profession, you just think of the guy behind the counter at Rite Aid, but that's kind of like almost the lowest level of practice. So, it goes so many different directions from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's again a great outlook. So it seems like there's certainly in high demand. So I guess my first question, this is really for Dr. Jacobs, is in your pathway to being a pharmacist, how did you decide to enter this profession versus being a doctor, or like I mentioned earlier, PA or PT, a nurse? There's so many other like clinical healthcare options out there. Why, how did you decide this was the right one?
Well, there might be a little bit of ignorance driving that. Interestingly, I'm a first generation college graduate, so I didn't grow up. I grew up in Auburn, Pennsylvania. You think of the working poor. That's Auburn, Pennsylvania. I don't know if there's any Schuylkill County people watching this, but I wasn't around healthcare professionals. It wasn't part of life, so it wasn't something I had a lot of exposure to, a lot of experience with. So it just came from reading about different job potentials. What are you going to do next when you're in high school? What are you going to do with your life? And reading different things, it just seemed interesting to me. So I explored it, went into it, and it's worked out well for me.
So what was your undergrad degree in, Dr. Jacobs?
So I actually don't have an undergraduate degree. I did a 2+4. I met all my prerequisites in 2 years of undergraduate. Got into the Temple School of Pharmacy. Now, they're talking about this 3+4 program. There's a guaranteed seat associated with that. When I was in school, there was no guaranteed seat. It was hard to get into Temple University School of Pharmacy. It was very selective, at least at that time. I'm assuming that it still is. So, that was my pathway to it.
Right. So you had a separate application process. And was there, what was your level of anxiety like as you're going through the application process, knowing there's no guarantee that this is going to happen?
Yeah, again, probably ignorance comes into play. I didn't necessarily know how hard it was to get in, but I mean, I didn't have any trouble with it. I had, I think, a 3.9 in undergraduate, so it wasn't too difficult. But again, looking back, if I knew then what I knew afterwards, maybe I would have had more anxiety about it.
Hey, ignorance is bliss. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So for the faculty on the discussion here, we've talked a lot about the coursework, and there's going to be a heightened course load. How intense is their average semester going to be? I'm assuming we are not setting them up to run this gauntlet, but what might an average semester, average day look like for a student who is enrolled at this program during their time at Bloomsburg?
I can talk about that since I sort of have the coursework slides. So, I mean, you could expect in a typical semester to have a biology course, a chemistry course, and maybe a math or physics. because there are several biology course requirements, there are several chemistry course requirements, you have to take some physics, you have to take some calculus, and a couple semesters of each. And so, typically you're going to have those three, major types of courses each semester. And then you have your gen ed courses, which can kind of, buffer things out a little bit. So it is, of course, the math and science is always there, which, we kind of spoke before. You really kind of have to like biology, chemistry, and math. And you have to work at it, so it takes practice. So I often hear students say, well, I'm not good at math, or I'm not good at chemistry, I'm not good at biology. I'm like, you weren't good at walking when you were 9 months old, but you figured it out. So, so it's practice, right? You weren't good riding a bike when you first got on, but you practiced and you learned how to do it. And it's the same thing. So it's getting students to understand that biology, chemistry, and math and physics, it just takes practice. And you have to be willing to practice it. And for some students, it takes a little bit more practice than others, but you can do it. Everybody can do it. You just have to be willing to put the time in.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point you make. And I see this a lot on the front end in admissions, where you have, like, what I see a lot of our students are like, oh, I'm just not good at this. It's like, well, it's not like there's nothing in your genetics that says you're not going to be good at this thing, right? That's not how it works. At least I don't think that's how it works. It's just,
No.
You might not have necessarily had an opportunity. Maybe you weren't in the right situation. Maybe you have to work a little harder, right? So if you are interested in these subjects, we have a pathway, we have the advising, we have the opportunities to help you excel, as long as you're willing to do the work. You have to be willing to do the work, right? And again, I hear that, like, oh, I'm just not good at this. And I find myself saying that too. I'm just not good at math. Well, that's pretty lazy of me to just assume that, right?
Right. So what I like to say to students is reframe your thinking, right? So instead of saying, I can't do this, say, I currently struggle with, right? Because when you reframe your mindset, then you can overcome what you're struggling with. Like, if you view it as a struggle versus I can't do it, it's a completely different mindset.
Yes, good life advice in general, actually. That's,
right,
yeah.
right,
Another
exactly.
career as a life coach, Dr. Hess.
Yes.
And when you change your mindset, like Dr. Hess is speaking about, you also have faculty members with a lot of office hours. You're going to be taught by lab courses that are taught by faculty members, no TAs. So you're going to spend, in that chemistry lab course, 6-7 hours a week with a professor. In the biology courses, the same thing, physics, math. You are going to have an advocate for you in the classroom. Take advantage of them. We will help you guide the path. We will help you get there yet. The yet is always there. I'm not good yet, but you will get good.
Yep. We were hired because we love to teach, and we're good teachers, and we also love to do research. But the faculty at Bloomsburg, we hire good teachers. And so we strive to help our students every step of the way. As long as you're willing to put the effort in there, we are willing to help you out. And don't be afraid of us because we're science professors. That I know that can be a little scary sometimes for freshmen, but don't be afraid of us. We're real people too. We do silly things sometimes, and we're here to help you out, and we're here for our students. And that's why I'm here at Bloomsburg University, is because I love my job and I love working with students. Faculty meetings, not as much. Sorry, guys.
And I know everyone here has fancy and extensive educational backgrounds. Dr. Borland has his on display there right behind him. And I know you all have spent time at larger, what we call R1, or what a lot of people would say, like your larger institutions. When you were at those schools, what was your experience like, even whether you were an undergrad or a grad student there? What was any observations on what a program like this might have been like? What would the advising be like? What would the class size be like? Who's teaching your classes? We can start with Dr. Borland.
So I'm from a not to be named large university in Pennsylvania, so I'll say that. But you would
are the colors blue and white, and
they could possibly
might have
be
a Nittany lion.
And if you zoom in on those degrees well enough. But what I can say is my general chemistry class that here at Bloomsburg is 54 students was 350 students.
Yep.
a very large room. And then when I had lab, I had a grad student who was maybe 3 to 4 years older than me, whose job was to keep me from spilling dangerous things and setting myself on fire. But your labs were taught by someone not much older than you, a graduate student though, albeit, but they were in charge of 25 students. So it was not out of the realm of possibility that I had classes of 300 up until my senior year.
Yeah.
And so advising was on me. It was I had to be my own advocate all the time. And here you will have an advocate side by side with you day one.
Yeah.
I went to that same big institution for my undergraduate degree.
The name escapes
Yes.
me.
And I had the same experience.
Okay.
And there were good things about it. Like I did become friends with the graduate assistants who taught some of my microbiology labs. And that's how I ended up getting an opportunity to work in a research lab as an undergraduate. And, and that's how so there are some things, but Dr. Borland's right. Like, you are taught by TAs in your classes and your lecture is 300 and some students, and you can feel like this big. I don't think I actually ever talked to any of my actual professors the whole time I was I think I talked mostly to the graduate assistants or the TAs or whomever. I think there was a few actual professors, but at BU it's not like that at all. Like, we are here, we have our doors open. Like this week especially has been super busy with advisement because the scheduling is coming up. We have lots of opportunities for academic support, so we're here.
It really is it's white glove service. It's kind of when I hear you guys describe, like, that's kind of what, I guess that's how like an industry might describe it. And I promise we're not trying to pick on one school. It's just kind of happened to be how it fell.
I had the same experience in my program out in Kentucky at the University of Louisville. I had the same, I'll name the school, same experience. And that's what you get when you go to an R1. But you come to state school, public school like Bloomsbury University, and you get a public school price, but you get a private school service and commitment by your faculty. So I think that's what's really special about us.
You're going to be on a billboard, Dr. Bell. I like that.
So one thing that I want to add here is the research opportunity. Dr. Bell mentioned that she loves to teach and she also loves to do research. And it is something that it's a distinction for our institution that students who are undergraduate students have an opportunity to work with faculty and have faculty as mentors for their research projects. That is not something that students who go on to those research one institutions that you were referring to as R1, they seldom get that opportunity. And sometimes it's basically no opportunity like that. So that is, and such research opportunities are actually something that when a student is applying for pharmacy school or any professional school or graduate school, the schools are looking for that. In addition to the coursework and the GPA, they're looking for those research opportunities. And our students have, with faculty mentors, they can apply for grants like, the PEG grants, and, they get so many things on top of, faculty teaching their labs and classes and advising. So it is indeed a club service.
And honestly, you figure, because a lot of students that are applying to professional schools, any of the professional schools, a lot of them are taking somewhat similar coursework. A lot of them are doing well, right? So like that's the baseline, right? That's the most basic form of the application process. So the question is, what are you doing in addition to that? And that's where like we have the facilities, we have the options. In this case, for the Doctorate of Pharmacy programs, we already have the path kind of like mapped out for you. So that's part of the reason why I know these are programs that put us on the map for a lot of students is because of those reasons there. Great. Question for Dr. Jacobs. What's an average day like for a pharmacist? And I know there's a lot of different types of pharmacists out there, but for you in your particular area, what does a normal day look like? What are some of the tasks and responsibilities like?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to describe a normal day because hospital can vary so greatly day to day. I guess maybe to start with that, because I've had different roles over the course of my career. So maybe I'll walk through my career from beginning to end. So when I started, I was a critical care pharmacist. So what I did in that role was We had a cardiac ICU and a med surg ICU at that time. So I kind of split my time between the two. If I was on the medical surgical ICU, I'd go on rounds with the critical care medicine team. I'd monitor, those critically ill patients, their medication therapy, kind of be the resource for the medical team with that, look for drug interactions, ways to optimize therapy, maybe, a problem that's not being addressed that could be addressed, maybe a problem, some medications that aren't needed, maybe looking for side effects, drug interactions, those sorts of things. So you're kind of going on your rounds every day in that unit. So that's where I started. And a few years in, I had the opportunity to launch the emergency medicine program at Geisinger Medical Center. So that it's hard to say what an average day was, because you never know what's gonna walk through the door. Where we are, we have a very high acuity level. It just has to do with our position. We patients kind of feed in from about a third of Pennsylvania. So, the patients that are too sick, too complicated for all the other hospitals, they send them in to, kind of the highest level of care there. So a lot of helicopter people, traumas, things like that. So a very, very high level of acuity. In that role, I was just there, bedside, evaluating the patients. Traumas come in, I'm there, helping, manage that as the patient's on the table. So,
Sure.
Working closely with the emergency medicine docs, emergency medicine residents. There's a teaching aspect to it too in both of those roles. Pharmacy students rotate through, pharmacy residents. In the emergency medicine role, I even did some teaching for the medical residents in the emergency medicine residency program. But for the past almost 10 years, my role is actually, I've been a night shift pharmacist. So what I do in that role, you think in terms of the trades. So there's, you have the plumber, you have the electrician, you have the carpenter. Each person is an expert, in their area, in their certain trade that they learn. And then you have the handyman, who's kind of, he can do all of those things competently. Maybe he's not the expert of experts in any one of those things, but he needs to be competent in all those things, right? So in my role on night shift, we're working with limited staff. So it's kind of a handyman role. You have to be competent in all of the specialties, and same kind of thing. Whatever comes in, I'm managing the whole hospital. Myself and one other pharmacist are managing the whole hospital overnight. So it's busy, to say the least. We're not twiddling our thumbs. So doctors calling, just questions, how to manage their patients. Like I said, all different specialties. We're dealing with that, proactively evaluating medication orders, responding bedside, if a patient's in a code blue, a cardiac arrest, or, stroke patients, some people like that. Mostly it's a centralized role. I manage a team of pharmacy technicians, like I said, myself and one other pharmacist. So, and that, same thing, it's a little bit, what comes through the door, whatever comes up, two nights aren't the same. So
and that's interesting, because I'll be very honest with you, the primary exposure that I have had to pharmacists, or going to CVS, is, I guess, what you would call like retail pharmacy. So I am honestly very surprised to hear that. I didn't really know what you were going to say. We're not really seeding these questions, but that's interesting. Average day, how many cups of coffee are we having?
I'm actually not a coffee drinker, so
wow. Good for you. Wow.
Right.
I was gonna say, for me, man, that's like a 5-6 cup per day, maybe. Probably minimum, just to get out of bed. All right, well, good for you, Dr. Jacobs.
That's because Dr. Jacobs could figure out the lethal dose of caffeine. So
yes, he probably could.
Really quick.
I might be teetering the edge. I have like a crippling dependency on caffeine. Both of my kids never sleep. So it's like, as the sleeping decrease, the caffeine increase, the coffee intake is increased. So it's hard. It's a hard thing to kind of walk back. But so, yeah, my advice is just don't start it. So I know, and this is one of the final questions here, but I know we've talked about, how it's 3 + 4. in that fourth year, you're concurrently finishing your undergrad degree at Bloomsburg, while also starting your first year at either Temple University or Fairleigh Dickinson University in their Doctorate of Pharmacy program. For the faculty in the group, what might that year look like? Like, where are students taking classes? Are they taking classes at both Bloomsburg and either Temple or Fairleigh Dickinson? Like, what might a day look like or even a semester look like for students in that situation?
So they're going to be fully at their PharmD program.
Okay.
Taking their first terms of their PharmD program. Dr. Jacobs could probably give you a pretty good idea of what the first 2 terms of Pharm School at Temple is like, since he's the only one among us who's been there.
Yeah, and Dr. Jacobs, I know you said you were part of I guess you said the 2+4 program. So I guess your third and fourth year, what was your experience like? I guess, how did you do your undergrad degree at Temple?
Well, yeah, my undergrad years I did at Temple University.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will say, at least when I was there, Temple University School of Pharmacy was a flunk out program. If you know what that means, basically, it was tough to get in, right? It's tough to get in, and that first semester, they weed you out. Like probably about 10% of the people. It's hard to get in to begin with. Right. About 10% of the people didn't make it through that first semester. But then once you make it through that first semester, if you can cut it for that, you can make it through. It's difficult. It's a lot of work. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and say you're gonna scoot right through. I will say, in those slides, I might make the faculty mad here saying this, but they said a minimum GPA of 2.7. Honestly, if you have a 2.7 in undergrad, you're gonna have a hard time in pharmacy school. I think that 3.3 is probably more realistic. Okay. If you're just getting a 2.7, you're probably going to be better off spending that extra year at Bloom and taking the extra courses, working through that, because it's hard, it's intense. I mean, I'm going to tell you, I was a National Merit Scholar in high school. I had like a 3.9 in undergrad, and both of those things, I could scoot right through. It wasn't until I hit pharmacy school that I really learned how to intensely study, intensely work, because before that I could just kind of get by on aptitude and ability, and you just do a little bit. Can't do that in pharmacy school. It's work, it's hard. But that being said, just from my experience, when I got on my clinical rotations, when I got out, even being next to other students from other schools on clinical rotations, and then working in an academic medical center setting, having a lot of students come through from different schools of pharmacy. Temple students were ready. I mean, unconditionally, like you could tell the difference between them and students from other schools. They're ready. So it's hard, but you come out prepared, you come out ready, you're prepared to take on the world in the realm of pharmacy. So
excellent. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add about what that transition year might be like? I know you're probably taking classes at the institution where you're completing the degree at. Dr. Bell.
Oh, so I just want to ask Dr. Jacobs, your first term, did they do like a medical biochemistry and a gross anatomy? Is that first term pharm school? Or
yeah, so basically the first year, really first 2 semesters, are very heavy on the pharmaceutical sciences. You have 2 semesters of biochemistry, you have anatomy and physiology. Then you start getting into, pharmacology and drug dosage delivery systems, pharmaceutics, things like that. But, it's heavy on the pharmaceutical sciences at the beginning. And then as you move on through the years, it flips and it becomes heavier on the pharmacy practice side of things. But I did as I said, I did 2 years of undergrad. I just met my prerequisites. So when I got to pharmacy school, first time I ever had biochemistry, first time I ever had anatomy. And I'm sitting in a room full of people, at least 2/3 of our class, had a bachelor's degree, people with bachelor's degrees in biochemistry, bachelor's degrees in biology. these things were taught at a high level.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was pretty intense. So, having that extra background, from the prerequisites you listed in anatomy and biochemistry, certainly that's going to be an advantage once you get to that first year of pharmacy school, having that background to build on.
And that's typical of all of our medical professions. Usually it's the medical anatomy and physiology and the medical biochemistry that they go into. And so our students have a history of whatever professional program they've gone into, is that they're really well prepared, whether they're coming out of biological and out of health, or they're coming out of chemistry and biochemistry. And so at least they have that under their belt. So when they hit their pharmacology courses there and start having to swallow all that information, that at least they've got a little cushioning going on in the biochemistry realm. So I think that that's a great piece of advice. Did you take any, I know you were only an undergraduate for 2 years. Did you take any business classes? Because I was wondering, as an advisor, should I be advising my students to take like a management course or something like that? Would that be helpful?
So we sort of had like prerequisites. If you wanted to get into pharmacy school in 2 years, you had to meet all the prerequisites. So it was pretty laid out. I mean, there was an economics class, which I believe was in your prerequisites as well. In terms of the business side, I believe that's the only thing that I took for that. So yeah, I mean, in terms of things that you're going to use when you're a pharmacist, certainly, when you're evaluating medical literature, statistics is a big thing. So, a good statistics class is, I mean, you'll go through that in pharmacy school, but having that background in statistics is really going to be something that's helpful, once you finish, because that's a huge part of what I do, is just reading and critically evaluating medical literature. And, you can see just by looking at the world around us for the past year and a half, how the general population thinks they can read and interpret medical literature, and they grossly misinterpret it. I mean, it is something that comes with skill, something that comes with practice.
Well said. Well said. So final question for the night. Any parting advice for a student who is considering this program? They might be a prospective high school student, or a prospective college student, either at Bloomsburg or at another institution. Any advice? You can pick any of the populations. You can address all of them if you would like. And any advice there? And we can start with Dean Latha.
Talk to the faculty.
Sure, talk to the faculty. Right. At first, I thought you were just like asking that question right now, but okay. So you talk to the faculty. Okay, great. Thank you.
Even if the student is remotely interested, I would say reach out to the faculty, and they will gladly take up that call or meet with the student and provide the best possible advice and guidance.
Great, thank you.
We would love to have you up for a visit. So
yes.
If you're watching this video and you're interested in learning more, no obligation to you. Any one of us would be happy to have you up for a visit to see our gorgeous campus here in the heart of East Central Pennsylvania. And, we do have lovely life outside of campus. So in those rare moments that you're going to get time to enjoy a social life, we have a very lovely place to be here. And it's a small community. You can walk everywhere. And I live right here in town, and I walk to the university, and I walk home, and I walk everywhere. And the grocery store is within a walking distance. So it's a lovely environment for your 3 years before you go off to the city. And then you have a completely different environment, which will be exciting to you. So you get kind of a more rural aspect, and then you get a more metropolitan aspect of it. So, and then after that you can choose. And Dr. Jacobs here ended up in a more rural setting.
Chose to come back.
Yeah. And so, so that's what I would say. If you're interested, give us a call, contact us, give us an email.
Yes.
And we'll be happy to make arrangements for you to come visit us and see our campus and see our facilities and all the stuff you get to touch in the science building.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Bell. Dr. Jacobs.
Yeah, I'll just say, you're promoting 2 programs here, from Temple University and Fairleigh Dickinson University. I'll admit I'm biased here as a Temple grad, but something interesting that's happened in the world of pharmacy education, the number of programs has expanded very rapidly. When I started college at the beginning of the 2000s, there was, I believe, 80 schools of pharmacy in the country. By the time I graduated, it was over 100. Last I checked, it was in the 130. So we're probably running around 140 now. But there's something in the world of pharmacy called, they call it the original 72. And that was for decades and decades and decades and decades. There were 72 schools of pharmacy in the country. It was consistent. So now there's 140. It's like almost doubled. But I do think that there's an advantage to being associated with one of those original 72. You know, not that you're going to get a subpar education at any school of pharmacy. They're going to have you know, good educational standards, hopefully good faculty, but being part of one of those original 72s, you tap into a greater alumni network. Schools have a lot more connections. There's a lot more history there. So,
right.
You know, that is going to be a huge advantage of Temple University School of Pharmacy. Number one, it's state affiliated, so it's cheaper. So that's a big piece, but it's also one of those original 72 schools. And that is something that I think sometimes gets underestimated in looking at these sorts of things. And yeah, that guaranteed seat, that's a pretty big deal, because like I said, it was when I was in pharmacy school, they were accepting, it was 10% of applicants. So,
wow.
I mean, it's fairly, I don't know what it is now. Like I said, there's twice as many schools of pharmacy now, but may not be quite that intense. But having that guaranteed seat with a very reasonable GPA requirement for that's a pretty big deal to get access to. Right. Number one, an original 72 school that's difficult to get into historically, and you know, is state affiliated, so you have that pricing advantage. Like that's pretty incredible deal. So
yes, I agree. Having not been a pharmacist, just you're selling me on. Yeah. Dr. Borland.
I would say stay tuned to BU, because even though these are the first of 2 agreements we've signed, they aren't going to be the last. And so I think even though you may not be interested in Temple or Fairleigh Dickinson, although Dr. Jacobs may be mad, but what I'd say is you're going to see BU developing more agreements such as this as direct pathways for undergraduate students, those first generation students, those rural Pennsylvania students, as this pathway for us to get you from degree to career kind of in a one-stop shop. So stay tuned.
Right. And Dean Lath, I think he's adding to your to-do list. Whatever was on there, it's just been multiplied by a factor of 2 or 3.
It is a to-do list for the collective team here. You know, everyone here did a lot more work than I did in terms of these 2 agreements and partnerships we are promoting here.
And honestly, you know, for a lot of students, when they think of Bloomsburg, normally health science programs is among the first things they think about when they think about Bloomsburg, you know. So this is, again, these are our banner programs.
Yep. So Mike is absolutely right. You know, when I was at Temple, their School of Pharmacy has many other health science related or health professions related programs. Certainly, they expressed a strong interest in partnering with us on other programs, and so is the case with Fairleigh Dickinson University. Theirs is a school of pharmacy and health science, and they have a portfolio which is not just PharmD program, and also they are looking to expanding their program. So as Dr. Borland said, these premier schools are really interested in partnering with us. And that speaks to their recognition of BU and the education that we provide to our students. And in fact, Dr. Jacobs was definitely speaking about the price point that Temple offers to our students. Fairleigh Dickinson, likewise, they said for our students, they will certainly be interested in exploring some specific scholarship opportunities, and particularly for the inaugural cohort. And that is because they do believe in the quality of students and the preparation of that we provide to our students, so they can be successful.
And that is one thing. So your earning potential when you go into fields like this is high. The problem is your debt load is normally pretty high as well, right? None of these experiences are free. So that's one thing that can sometimes be ignored. And the assumption is, like with any program, I'll just pay the loans off when I'm done. I'll figure it out then. That's tomorrow's problem. it's not monopoly money, right? That's all real money that you're going to have to pay back. So this is why, when you talk about scholarships, you talk about the value of public education, you talk about the 3+4 and cutting a year off, like all of that is going to dramatically lessen your debt load, which will, again, make your quality of life so much higher when you graduate. So it's certainly not my intent to scare anybody, but man, like those are the facts and the figures. Those are things that you want to be thinking about right now. Dr. Zimmerman.
Advice for a high school student now, I would say take advanced placement courses, take difficult courses. If your school doesn't have advanced placement courses, take the toughest courses that you can find there, and don't restrict it just to an AP Bio or an AP Chem. An AP History class is a great idea. AP Literature class. Those things will help you along the way, and I think it's good to try and hone your skills a bit before you get here.
Dr. Zimmerman, I was fist pumping because I was a history major at Bloomsburg. So
Oh, you were.
You're talking my language now. The rest of this has been Latin, frankly, until you mentioned that. So this is nice. Thank you. And Dr. Bell, I know we had heard Dr. Hess.
Well, I don't really have anything else to add. I mean, I think that everyone else, hit on all of the main points that I would have suggested as well. For someone who may be in high school thinking about a pharmacy program, but even if you are a freshman in college and you're thinking about something like that, it's still okay. We can make it work, and you can still do an accelerated program. So just don't be afraid to reach out and ask your questions.
Okay, great, everybody. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Everyone who joined us in the audience. We appreciate your time. If there's anything that we can do to help you along the way, I would encourage that you reach out. We work for you. We're happy to do so. So we look forward to hearing from everybody in the future, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.